Game demos were at their absolute peak during the PS2 era. While now demos are something that happens infrequently at best, in those days, developers were all too fond of releasing dedicated vertical slices of upcoming games well before their releases. And people collected those demo discs and played them endlessly. Here, we're going to talk about a few demos for PS2 games that we just couldn't stop playing. Metal Gear Solid 2. Ah, the mother of all demos. Obviously, this one had to be in here. The hype for Metal Gear Solid 2 was absolutely unbelievable, to the point where the fact that Zone of the Enders came with the demo disc for MGS2 ended up driving the former's sales. Scores of MGS fans played that demo endlessly, exploring the parts of the tanker that they could, taking in all the details, and it was absolutely glorious. Burnout III. Burnout 3 is probably one of the greatest racing games ever made, if not the greatest, so even the chance to play a tiny little bit of it is unmissable. And sure, a demo isn't a game, but the Burnout 3 demo gave us an incredible taste of an outstanding game, so obviously we couldn't keep ourselves from diving into its brief offerings over and over again. Final Fantasy X. Any new Final Fantasy release is a special occasion, but Final Fantasy X's pre-release hype was particularly intense, and its demo only served to heat it up even more. Getting a brief glimpse at the game's gorgeous visuals, its cutscenes, its combat and its voice acting, which was a first for the series, was a surreal experience. And before we could finally get our hands on the full game, we went back to that demo more than a few times. Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, like a few other early Harry Potter games, was a far better game than more movie tie-ins tend to be, so it's not surprising that its demo too was pretty solid. It was a small linear vertical slice that had you solving puzzles, casting spells, dealing with magical creatures, and collecting beans, but we went back to that concentrated dose of pure enjoyment time and time again. Dark Cloud. There's nothing quite like a demo that encourages players to play through it again and again, and the Dark Cloud demo did just that, not by limiting how much of the game was available to you, but how long you could play it for. Sure, technically it would cut off at a specific point, but the more pressing limit was that you only had an hour. More than a few people out there will tell you about how many times they played that demo to try and get as far as possible. Tekken IV. More than anything else, the Tekken IV demo proved, and still does, that a game with a solid core and fun moment-to-moment gameplay can be replayed quite a bit, even with the barest of content. Even though the demo obviously didn't come close to giving access to the full list of characters, stages, or even modes, what it did provide was still an absolute blast. Popping in that demo disc just for a quick couple of fights never got boring. Destroy All Humans. The Destroy All Humans demo didn't even touch the game's open world maps, which makes it a little surprising that we still played it as much as we did. In hindsight, that brief slice right from the beginning of the game is pretty plain, but back then, getting to zap humans as an alien, use telekinetic powers, and jump into a UFO and destroy buildings with a giant laser beam was unlike anything else. FIFA Street 2. Limited though the options and offerings might be in the FIFA Street 2 demo, it was still a hell of a demo, because it did exactly what the demo should do. It provided an excellent taste of what the actual game was like, and roped us in with the addictive and arcadey spin that FIFA Street puts on the FIFA series' core gameplay. We could, and did, play that demo for hours on end. Guitar Man. There's nothing quite as replayable as a good rhythm game, and Guitar Man was one of the best. And while its demo, by its very nature, wasn't endlessly replayable, everything gets boring at some point, it was still pretty darn good. The game looked and sounded delightful, and was an absolute blast to play. So it's not at all surprising that so many people got as much joy out of that brief chunk of the game as they did. God of War II. Expectations from God of War II were high, given how excellent its predecessor was, and its demo cranked that up to 11. Though it was just a small portion of the game's opening section in Athens, it still had more than enough to wow us. Its bloody combat, gameplay improvements over the first game, glimpses of the Colossus, some interesting setup of the story, and of course those stunning visuals. All of it just blew us away, and we soaked every second of it in each time we played it. Gran Turismo 4. Even someone with zero interest in Gran Turismo could easily be convinced to buy GT4 if they put enough time into the demo, which might very well be the most polished demo of its time. A small selection of cars and courses was more than enough to not only give players a taste of its gorgeous visuals and excellent driving mechanics, but keep them coming back for more. That demo disc saw a lot of use in many consoles in the lead-up to the PS2's launch. Eco. Eco is, to this day, one of the most unique games of its kind, even though parts of it haven't aged particularly well. And as our first glimpse at what it would turn out to be, its demo holds a special place in our hearts. The demo was completely devoid of any cutscenes, thrusting us straight into a small chunk of the game's opening section, and it was absolutely mesmerizing each time we went through it. Jak 3. This is probably one of the most jam-packed demos of its time, with little tastes of everything from multiple environments and combat scenarios to driving and more. It did an excellent job of building up the hype for the next installment in Naughty Dog's platformer series. There's nothing quite like a demo that's not only a ton of fun, but is also a little longer, and Jak 3 ticked both of those boxes. LEGO Star Wars. Back before LEGO Star Wars had become the established gaming series, or sub-series that it is now, there was still plenty of excitement surrounding the first game's launch, and a lot of that was fueled by its demo. In particular, kids and younger audiences adored its blocky spin on the beloved property, and getting to live through pieces of the movie in LEGO form was a blast, even in that short vertical slice. So what are your thoughts on this? Go ahead and share them in the comments below. And if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel and enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon to get new video updates. We upload every day and would really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching.